which opens in less than a week. They'll be on the field practicing in less than a week. Good morning, it's Jeremy and Joe. Carl Jones, Channel 4, coming up in just a moment here. If you missed the news in the last couple of minutes, Patrick Kane is going back to Chicago. 2-year deal, $8 million per year. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Very brief takeaway from me. I do not care he's from Buffalo. I don't care about the homecoming story at all. I don't think they lost out on a homecoming story here. I think they lost out on a power play specialist that had the skill on the power play they're missing, which is an elite passer and distributor. That's it. And that was not worth an $8 million cap hit, which is what he's going for in Chicago. He would have been the Sabres' highest paid forward if he had signed. So I think he had a skill set they're missing, and I also don't think that skill set was worth what it cost. So there. Kane, we'll talk more about it later on, but he is going back to Chicago. The Bills open camp. They'll be on the field in less than a week, and they'll be at St. John Fisher for a little over a week, not long, and then back to the stadium for the return of the blue and red. Carl Jones now on the West Her hotline from WIVB Channel 4. It'll be different, right, Carl? Like, it's just not going to be as long at Fisher.
Yeah, it'll be different. We got to wake up a little bit earlier.
That too. Well, you do. No different for us, but
yeah, a little bit earlier. Practice at 8:30 now. It's like a college vibe now. So, yeah, it's gonna be a little different. Obviously, Joe Brady, his practices were a little different, even in minicamp and OTAs. Just the energy around it. So, I'm excited though. I think fans should be as well.
Do you feel like things are looser down there? Like, we opened the show earlier today looking back on the offseason now as we head into camp and whether fans think or are bought in on this plan working. And really the meat of the plan of the offseason, they added Bradley Chubb, DJ Moore, and Jim Leonhard. But obviously the biggest thing they did this offseason was going from McDermott to Joe Brady.
I do think things are looser, and I think based off of, one, my experience just being at practice and just seeing how things operate, just watching how people move around the field, the music, everything in between, it's just a different vibe there, for better or for worse. I'm not here to tell you that one way is better than the other, right? It's different. And then also when you speak to some of the players, they'll admit that as well. I actually just talked to Mitch Morse the other day, and he just said that one of the things that he gives Joe Brady a lot of credit for is how he makes people feel very comfortable. And I think that players will always themselves under Sean McDermott. That was never an issue, but it may be amplified a little bit more under Joe Brady, just based off how he interacts with people, how he moves around, and how he makes people truly feel like their best version of themselves. So yeah, I think once again I've seen it with my own two eyes, and then the players themselves, even ex-players, have seen that as well.
What is the number one thing you think we'll be talking about at camp? Is it just going to be Keon Coleman again? I mean, that's kind of been true multiple years in a row, but he is still kind of on trial here for his NFL career. Like, is it going to get rolling? Because other than that, we'll have battles, but, we'll talk guard. There'll be linebacker. But is Coleman still the number one thing?
Listen, I can assure you, I know Bills fans want to know who starts at left guard. Y'all not getting no answer of 8 days into St. John Fisher without shoulder pads. I can assure you that. So please don't hit on my XP asking, do I know who's ahead in left guard training camp battle? I do not know, okay? Having said that, though, I think Keon Coleman's probably the leader in the clubhouse, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like, a C.J. Gardner-Johnson, like, dominates the headlines for a litany of reasons. One, listen, he don't turn it off. That brother walks around unapologetically himself. So, like, there's a day where, the fans can hear him talking a little bit. I can see it going viral. Like, oh, my gosh, like, he's loud. He's talking trash. I heard it from the stands or whatever the case may be. Or I heard it from sitting around the track. I can see him dominating the headlines, people being amused or, being amused about who he is and how he maneuvers a little bit. So, separate of, like, the actual talent on the field, if this time 2 weeks from now or whatever, fans are like, man, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is loud as everyone said he is, wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah. On that side of the ball, rookies have already reported they're at Orchard Park. They're not at Fisher yet. And there's been a lot of steam for Caleb Elamzor, their 4th-round linebacker. Are you in on that train, thinking that he is going to really push Dorian Williams here at camp as a starter on that defense?
I think out of all 10 rookies, he has the cleanest path to starting week 1. I truly believe that. One of the reasons is the fact that Dorian Williams has missed most, if not all, of the offseason program because of a lower leg injury. So, I mean, that's just based off of reps, right? Availability is your best ability, and for a rookie to come in and get a lot of those first-team reps can do nothing but help him. What also will help him is that he's their guy, right? No disrespect to Dorian Williams. This isn't a knock on him, but they didn't draft him. They drafted Caleb Elamzor, and that goes a long way in the building. I remember being an athlete and coming with a coaching staff, and how not every coaching staff is the same. I want to make this abundantly clear, but coaches, they want their people they want to be validated, right? So they want to make sure that their guys are set for success. That's one reason. And then the other is how they talk about him, where I don't know if it was Joe Brady or Jim Leonhard, but it was the huddle story that just really caught my eye this offseason, where Caleb had a huddle, in practice, and he basically commanded the huddle and said, "Hold on, coach, this is my huddle. Y'all don't come in here while it's my huddle." And it reminded me of that Drew Brees story a few years back. I don't know if you heard about it when he talked on the New Heights podcast, where he told Sean Payton or whoever the coach was at the time, "Hey, listen, don't talk to my left guard while I'm in here. This is my huddle." So I think that was something that really caught my eye, and I'm really tapped in to see what he's going to do at St. John Pitt.
Oh, I think it was Doug Marrone was the coach he threw out of the huddle, because can't forget that. He was an assistant there at the time, but yeah, he threw Doug Marrone out of the huddle, which was a great story from Breeze in New Orleans. Yeah, I'm curious about Elamzor for this too, and also like what Jim Leonhard will ask of his linebackers that is different than what Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich did before. I feel like a lot of the things we're hearing are there will be more blitzing, and Elamzor comes in with that profile, and I feel like Dorian Williams and Bernard have experience in that as well. So I know it's more than just blitzing, but how different do you feel like the job of these linebackers will be in this defense versus the old scheme?
I think they're going to be moving forward a lot more. Like, I think a lot more blitzing, a lot more aggressive on early downs, where they're going to be given the green light to tee off. And obviously there are pros and cons of that. Let's not sit up here and say, "Oh, we need linebackers to just always move forward every single snap." Well, I mean, the Seattle Seahawks backers did not play like that, and they just were the best defense in football last year. But I think this is going to be different than what you saw in the Sean McDermott, where there was a lot of catching, a lot of like, hey, we're going to read and react. Although I will say that final year in Buffalo, the backers did blitz a lot more. They were a lot more aggressive.
Yep.
And to be fair, the run game didn't really improve that much, but they were moving forward. So, but I do think you're going to see an uptick in that. And then, I mean, the aggressiveness across the board is going to be like that. There's going to be guys blitzing out the wahoo. I made the comparison this offseason. There may be some plays where you think there's 12 players on the field, just by how much movement there's going to be going on. So, yeah, I do think that also fits Bernard's skill set, because that was his calling card coming out of Baylor. And then obviously the same thing with Dorian Williams.
Is there anywhere in the defense you feel like they could still add a spot? I know Sal's been talking a lot about like maybe one more corner on the team, but do you feel like if they added a late veteran here, not anything, that's going to jump off the page for money, but do you think there's room for someone else to still come in?
I think corner is an appropriate spot. It depends on how you feel about Davis and Igbenogson. Listen, just because you drafted a guy doesn't mean that he's good. Like, I mean, that's just I know that they wanted depth. But, like, just to say that he's not a guy who can help you out in week one, well, if Max Harrison gets dinged up a little bit, your options are moving D. Alford back out to the outside, and then now you're moving C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the nickel. But now we're hurting two spots. Now our nickel isn't as good, and now our free or strong safety isn't up to snuff as well. So I think that getting another outside corner is definitely something that they should be going after, but I wouldn't expect it before day one of camp, right? Like, if you're a coach, let's see what IGB has as a player. And listen, if we get 10 days in the training camp and he's not what we want right now, okay, let's go get to a veteran. I mean, these veterans are going to be ready. I mean, whether it is a Trey Wyatt or go down the list of any veteran that's older, that's been around the league a little bit, they're in shape, they're ready, and if they get their number called, they'll be able to make something shape.
Yeah, that if it was Trey White, he comes up, and we talked about him actually a little bit yesterday. He had a good year under Sean McDermott, which I was not fully expecting just because it had been so many years since he'd been able to stay healthy and put it together on the field. But that was McDermott, and how easy would it be for Trey White with this defense and the differences and what's asked of their corners to just plug in under a new scheme at that position and be able to replicate what he did last year? Like, do you think he actually makes sense, or do you feel like when we talk about a veteran corner that it would be more likely to be somebody else?
He doesn't profile as the exact corner that would be best in this system. I like Trey White's game because he's quick, he's smart, he can get in and out of breaks. Listen, for better or for worse, when you play man coverage at the rate that the Broncos did last year, which I believe was north of 50%, the highest in football, man, it's about being long and being able to bump and run. And there are a lot of corners that necessarily I wouldn't put in the top 10 of my – Patrick Tan is obviously great, but there are a lot of corners who don't necessarily need to be to have the greatest feet, don't need to have the greatest hips, because, hey, we're just asking to just bump around with these guys all over the field. That's not necessarily Trey White. Having said that, though, I want to make this so clear. Trey White has been playing cornerback for half of his life at this point. It's not like he's never played man coverage. So, listen, if he is the best available corner on the market, I don't see why it would be some square peg, round hole thing. Like, sure, it's not his exact skill set, but this isn't like you're asking him to play defensive line. Like, he's played man coverage before. This is what he does.
Right. Carl Jones with us on the Western Hotline from Channel 4 as we look ahead to training camp a bit. On the offensive side of the ball, I'll ask you the question that we were picking apart last hour. If Dalton Kincaid, if I told you right now, I had a magic button, he will stay perfectly healthy all year long for the Bills, how much do you think they'd use him, and what would his role be?
That's $1 million question, ain't it? Because I think that if he's perfectly healthy, we've seen that he's a very productive receiver in a stat column. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts around that. So, like, if he plays 17 games, I can see him easily getting to 900, 950 yards, flirting with 1,000. The problem is, even when he's been healthy, it's not like he's been a dominant snap share on the Bills. Like, the Bills don't put him in situations where he has to dig out linebackers and dig out a six technique, a defensive line, for those who don't know. So I don't think he'll ever be an every down player. I mean, you drafted Jackson Hawes for a reason. You paid Dawson Knox for a reason. Are you going to make those guys going to limit their snap share just for the sole purpose of Kincaid playing more, even though he's a much worse blocker than those guys? It's a very fascinating question because I want to see Dawson Kincaid just as much as anyone else. He's a fantastic player. But his snap share has never been above 55%. Even when he was healthy. Like week one last year. Think of this. Week one last year, they were throwing the ball all over the yard against the Ravens, and he still didn't play more than 55% of snaps. I think that peels back the curtain a little bit of, even at his best, they still don't want to expose him or expose him to some of his limitations as a player.
Right, and that is why he, to me, the reason that came up was Pro Football Focus ranked him as the sixth best tight end in football going into the year. And pretty much all the guys ahead of him, your Kittles, your McBrides, your Laportas, like those guys are very good receivers, but they do not come off the field. Like they stay out there. They're out there for run plays. And I wonder how Joe Brady sees Kincaid in the offense, because it's nice to have a guy that is prolific like that when he's running routes. And typically when he is out there, he is running routes. But I feel like he makes you a little more predictable, right? Like you would know as a defense, hey, Kincaid's out here. It's twice as likely they're going to throw the ball here because he's just on the field.
Oh, no, twice as likely as selling it short. There was a statistic last year where I believe Dawson Kincaid was the second most predictable tight end in football when he was out there. So, I think the only guy was close, and I could be off a little bit, was Darren Waller from Miami.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, I mean, listen, when he was out there last year, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was abundantly clear we're passing the rock here. There's not a lot of guessing games going on. You know how I said earlier, hey, linebackers a little bit more aggressive under Jim Leonhard? I promise you when they saw A6 come in the game last year, guys were teeing off a little bit more because they had a tendency that they were going to pass the rock. But no, that's a fascinating point. I don't get paid millions of dollars to balance that. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Even Travis Kelce at his prime, they still asked him to do certain things. And we know Travis Kelce wasn't coming off the field. So how does Joe Brady balance that? Pete Carmichael involved as well? I do not know. No, super fascinating, though.
On the offensive side of the ball, I guess it could be the defensive side, too. We talked about Caleb Elamsor. Who do you feel like is a good candidate to be the training camp hero of St. John Fisher? Every year we fall in love with somebody, and sometimes it works. Like Tyrell Shavers made the team after a couple of years and made a bit of an impact. Is there somebody that you feel like has a good chance of being that person?
I think if you extend this past St. John Fisher to like the let's say first 2 preseason games, I got 2 names for you. Surprise, surprise, the wide receiver, just because it's easy to see when he makes the play, right? I mean, when Skylar Bell is makes the catch on one-on-ones, it's easy to go, ooh, ah. So I think him. But then also I think the D tackle out of Penn State, Durant, also, there's a lot of people who were in awe of his skill set coming out, and they think that he is not Ed Oliver, because Ed Oliver was the top 10 pick. But, like, when you look at some of the things that make Ed Oliver special as a player, Zane Durant possesses some of those special traits as well. So I'm not going to predict it first week of camp. They're barely in shoulder pads. But, like, they get to the preseason and second preseason game, and he's making plays in the second half. I can see them being like, oh, man. Like, a lot of chatter on social media, like, man, we got us a steal here in the 5th round.
All right. Love it. Carl Jones, Channel 4. Check out, it was about a week ago, right? You did that exercise with Jeremy on the all Josh Allen era Bills team.
Yeah, on the Mafia Huddle, WIBD Plus, our Smart TV app.
Yeah, check that out. That was a good exercise. We talked a little bit about that the next day. Thanks, Carl, as always, and maybe we'll catch up again before the season starts.
For sure, my man. Have a good one.
Thanks. Carl Jones. You can follow him on Twitter, @Jones11_. Check out all his stuff. And as he mentioned, the Mafia Huddle on Bills Kickoff Live for Channel 4.